This podcast is for singers who have music in their soul and want to be in the spotlight. We are INVICTA Vox Radio.
Hey everybody, welcome back again to another episode of INVICTA Vox Radio. As always, we are your hosts, Mike and
Angie Lee.
And today we're going to be talking about something that plagues people. It's plagued us a ton in our journey. And this is the concept of building teams, right? And this is such a necessary thing because as you're going through your journey, whether it's developing your music, developing how do you film and media and all that stuff, or even like touring and all these things, your skill set will get you to a certain point by yourself, but it's not going to get you all the way there.
Yeah, and the thing that's so tricky about this is when you first start out with your career as an independent artist, at first you do have to do everything by yourself.
Right.
And then it's being strategic along the way of knowing when you bring other people into the picture with you. So it's not going all in with having a massive team right out the gate, but it's knowing when is it necessary to bring in those different players to help you along the way.
Right. And we've seen that a lot, especially in building a business. And you guys got to remember that building your music career, building your artistry is not all that different from
building a business.
Any entrepreneurial journey, really. And so it's, again, one of the big questions is, when do you need to make that leap to bring on a team member? I think that that's one of the big questions, right? Because there's always this conversation of like, hey, do you want, so there's owning the whole pie, but it's a smaller pie, and then there's owning a smaller piece of a bigger pie. Right. And the only way that you're actually going to expand how big that pie is or how big your career is by bringing on more people. Because you can only do so much on your own. And we've seen this time and time again. But a lot of people aren't willing to give up control. And so I would say actually one of the first steps in developing your team is asking yourself, where am I willing to give up control?
That's a really good point. I'm definitely a control freak when it comes to the things I've created. Delegating was it's a skill that I actually had to build. I was not a natural delegator, and I have never been a natural delegator. I like to control the things I create. And so the first time I started to have this idea of delegation, it was really difficult for me because when you build something, it's hard to hand it off to someone else.
Yeah.
And it's hard to look at it and go, well, can they do it as well as me?
Yeah.
Right. And that's a really scary thing at first. And the most important thing, I think, once you realize and decide there's a spot of what you're doing that you want to hand off, the most important thing is finding the right people.
Yeah.
So it's the idea, it's two steps, right? That's the idea of knowing where you're going to hand it off.
Right.
Knowing where you can relinquish control, where it's like, okay, if I can put someone else into this role, they'll either take it and run with it, or they'll be able to, maintain status quo with it. So knowing that, like, I need to be building other things and I need to give this off to somebody else to either take it over or push it to the next level. So it's that idea of knowing where you need to hand it off and then finding the right people to do it, because it's hard to find people who are going to jump in on your vision with you. And not only that, people who are that you can trust and that will trust you and that will grow with you. And so I think that's the two most difficult pieces to building a team, and really building your career and taking it to the next level.
Right. And one thing I thought that you just briefly touched on, but I actually think it's super important, is people who will jump in on your vision.
Yeah.
Because again, in the beginning, as you bring on team members and you get to that point where you can't do it all yourself, or either your time, your skill set, whatever it may be is lacking, and so you have to bring someone else in. Often you don't have the resources yet to be able to pay them what they're worth ultimately, right? And so you have to bring people up who are hungry, who are in the game, who see your vision and want to be a part of it and jump on that train early for dividends on the back end.
Yeah, I've worked with producers before who they'll say, yeah, just cover the studio time and then I'll take points on the back end.
Right.
And they actually are saying, hey, I'm going to go in on this with you because I believe in you. And I think this is potentially going to go somewhere. I'm going to take this leap with you. And so, yeah, there's definitely people who will jump with you because they see the vision and they want to have a bigger piece of the pie later on. And so that's just an example of kind of what you're talking about. So let's talk about some team members that people can kind of start to look for, because we're talking about how, sometimes you have to build out your team and it's difficult to know what to hand off and who to have in that position and how to find the right people. So just so people can kind of be thinking about this, just glance over a few different team members we can start thinking about as independent artists. And I think the interesting thing that people don't consider is actually what we do.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I fully agree.
Entry level team member, your coach, right?
Yeah.
Your voice coach. Because if you don't have someone that's going to give you feedback and help you grow, then you're just going to stay where you're at. And maybe that's okay for you. Maybe that's the type of art you're creating. And if that's the case, great. But most people need to get with a good coach and a good mentor. Whether it's for their voice or their instrument, like if you're playing guitar or piano, if you need a coach to help learn how to songwrite better, if you need to surround yourself with a crew of songwriters to just throw ideas around.
Yeah, that's one of the ones
collaborate.
that I was actually thinking of. Is it's
our
not
songwriter
even
circle.
It doesn't even feel like a team. It just feels like a group that you're part of. But by getting that feedback and by giving other people feedback, you are essentially a team. Yeah,
so we're talking about our songwriter circle here at the studio. It's an elite group of writers, and we get together once a month and we workshop songs. And so surrounding yourself with these type of people, with like-minded people, but also coaches and mentors, is a really big deal, because that's what is going to really develop you as an artist and get you in that first, on that path and really moving forward. And so I know a lot of people don't consider that as part of their team, but it definitely is. Even though you might be paying for those lessons, I can guarantee if you have a good coach, they're in your corner and they are pulling for you, and they're going to be doing everything they can to help you get there. And so it's really powerful to have that support around you and to build your platform off of that.
Yeah, that's another. So you just mentioned the word support, and I actually think that this is another huge, super important team member that probably won't cost you anything, because they're probably your friend, your mom. For us, it's me and you. It's us together.
Yeah.
And so even when we're having our bad days, or when you're up on stage and you're frustrated with what's going on or whatever, you need somebody that can help keep you in the game, can get you back in the game, and
who unfalteringly believes in you.
Yeah.
And supports you.
Yeah. And when you're down, they just get you back up on your feet, pat you on the butt, and send you back on your way.
Back out on the court.
And just say, hey, you're going to be okay. This is going to work. Just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's that support person. Maybe that's actually the foundational person. I think that's the foundational person, right?
I think you can make it to a certain point without it, but definitely moving forward at some point, you're going to need it.
You got to have that support. That's what you see a lot of people turn to drugs and different things to help cope with stress and depression and all of that stuff, and I think a lot of people would steer clear of that if they had proper support, if they had people who were really there for the right reasons saw the vision.
Taking this down a dark turn.
Down the dark. Cool. So it's having good mentors around you to help you build your craft. It's having like-minded artists around who can bounce ideas off of and grow with and come up in the industry with. It's having that person or people around you that really supports what you're doing, and not because they feel like they need anything from it, but because they just love you and they want to help you get where you want to go. Yeah.
And then as you go to create stuff, maybe you're good at videography, editing, photos. Maybe you're good at all that stuff, but if you're not, you might need somebody to come in and help you do photo shoots or help you edit something. I mean, can you learn all these things? Yes, but again...
Well, and that's the thing, like we were saying, like in the beginning, you're going to do everything on your own.
Right.
But you're going to run your Instagram page. You're going to run all your media. You're going to do all your own social media. You're probably going to do a lot of your own production in the beginning too, with a little home studio. You're going to create videos, like all of that. In the beginning of every artist journey, I feel like you're kind of doing all of it at once. But as your career starts to take hold, as you get thousands of subscribers and you got all of this stuff to do and you just don't have the time, that's when you have to look at it and go, okay, who can come in and step in and take this and not only help me take it off my plate, but make it go better, make it go faster, make it look better, take it to the next level. Is there a producer I can jump in with? Is there an engineer that I can get in with? Is there someone who has a super, super nice home studio who is a longtime engineer, which is actually one of our friends, who can help me mix this and make it sound even more polished, you know? And it's starting to hand off some of these little things so that you can focus on the most important thing, which is creating the art and really throwing yourself into all of that beautiful thing, because that's the one thing that others cannot create for you. You have to do that. Creating yourself, creating your art, creating your personal brand, all of that is on you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then eventually it gets to be like managers, publishing houses,
maybe a record deal coming down the pipe.
Right. Or registering your music with I can't think of what they're called, but the companies who basically protect your rights. Yeah, like your ASCAP BMIs. I just can't remember the name for them right now. But it's just taking all those steps along the way. But the most important thing as you bring on team members is, like you said, one, knowing which ones to bring on, knowing who to bring on, or like the personalities that are going to fit with you.
What things you can let go of.
And then the most important skill set you can have with your team is learning or understanding how to communicate with them. How do you get your vision across to them so that way they can swim in the same direction, right? I always think of like Finding Nemo, when it's like when they're all caught up in the net and he's like, swim down, and all the fish swim and then they break the thing, right?
Yeah.
But you as a leader, because you have to be a leader of your team, you have to get everybody swimming in the same direction. You have to get everybody going towards your ultimate vision and where you're trying to go. And so having that vision and then effectively communicating that vision to your team is your ultimate role when you bring on your team.
I even know a lot of people who start out as independent artists and then they slowly add band members. Those are team members.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
So start thinking of it as a team. Start thinking of it as an entity that you're building as a business and as an entrepreneur, instead of, oh, I'm just a musician. Because if you're just a musician, you're not going to go anywhere. You have to consider that you have to be an entrepreneur in this industry. That's the only way you're going to do anything. That's the only way you'll move the needle. And, you know, perhaps if you just want to have this as a beautiful hobby, then you probably don't need a lot of team members, because you're not trying to, you know, grow and get your music out there. But if you really want to grow it, then you're going to have to start handing things off in time to the right people that can help it grow faster and better and stronger, and to also just open up more space and time for you to create what you want to create.
Right.
To have the vision, because it's your vision out front that's driving the whole thing.
Because being a musician doesn't require being an entrepreneur, right?
No.
Because that's just learning how to play music and playing it and writing and loving it. But making a career in music requires being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And really, even if your goal is to get picked up by a label, which they'll do all of the music business for you, you still have to get yourself to the point to be recognized by the label to be able to get picked up. And that's a lot of legwork on your part to be able to get to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think with that, we can just wrap this bad boy up today. So the question of the day is, where do you need a team member right now? Right? Like, or as you're coming down the line to it, what is the first team member that you're going to need to bring on board with the skill set or limitations that you currently have?
Yeah. And if you're at the very beginning, it's like, oh, I just need a mentor. Well, that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Who's the mentor that you need first? Where do you need to go? Or is it like you just need a crew of musicians around you to help you grow and to get to the next level? It might be that it's like, hey, I'm booking all these shows. I need someone to help me with promotion. I need somebody, you know, or I need a manager, or don't jump to that one too soon, by the way.
Yeah.
Or somebody to help me do media. I think media is huge, because if you control media as an independent artist, you can launch yourself.
Yep.
So, yeah. Awesome, guys. So where are you at right now? We're always real with that. What's something that you see is a glaring hole that you can kind of hand off and you need help with? And who is that person that you need to find? And remember, don't just jump on the first person who comes into your path unless it's the right person.
Yeah, because that'll lead to disastrous results.
Well, you got to build a team that's going to be just straight fire around you and people you can trust and who will support you.
All right, guys. And as always, please like, subscribe, tell somebody, tell your neighbor, tell the guy on the bus next to you. Just say, hey.
People don't ride buses anymore.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Some people do.
Maybe shoot a screenshot to a friend and just say, hey, I kind of like this podcast. Try it out. But
Pretty much.
anyways, guys, until next time.
Peace.